Hi, I'm Shayla with Revolting Science Resources, a company designed to bring the principles of project management to academic scientists. Today's video is going to be a little different than the videos you'll normally see on my channel. I'm actually doing a collaboration with Dr. Kate Sleeth of Educated STEM, where we both share some of the things that we wish we knew before starting grad school. This will be part of a series of videos where we cover a few different topics and some advice that we have. But these videos are going to be split between both my YouTube channel as well as the Educated STEM YouTube channel. There'll be a link in the description box below where you can check out Kate's channel and see some of the other videos in this series. Also, we'd love to hear some of your thoughts as well. What are some things you wish you knew before starting grad school? Be sure to share your thoughts in the comment section below this video. But with that little bit of intro covered, let's jump into the conversation between me and Kate. Hi, so I'm Shayla with Revolting Science Resources. And this is part of the series that I'm doing with Dr. Kate Sleeth, where we're sharing a little about some of the things we wish we knew before starting our PhD. And so in today's video, we're actually going to be focusing a lot on boundaries and self-care, but we have a video that's about career paths and agency that's also on my channel if you want to check that out, as well as one about mindset that's on Kate's channel. So I'll let Kate just kind of do a quick introduction, but definitely be sure to check out both of our channels so that you're able to see all of the videos in these series.
Hello, everyone. My name's Kate. I am the founder of Educated STEM, which focuses on helping people with their career path and personal and professional development. And so I have a lot of videos on various topics, but I'm excited today to talk about boundaries and self-care, which is very important when you're in graduate school. As a previous associate dean, I've seen many students struggle with these things. So please learn from these videos and make sure that you don't actually get yourself into trouble. So when I was doing my graduate studies, I was very focused on making sure that I had quality me time, especially during my first and second year. My third year, which was my final year, definitely didn't do as much, but I still maintained some. So first and second year, I was doing sports practically every day. And so whether that was swimming, horse riding, I took up fencing because whilst I was at the pool, I saw these random people walking past me in white outfits and was like, what is that? I want to participate. And so randomly, I became a really terrible fencer. And then, if you know me, I love reading books. I will always have a book on me. Now with the phone, I have my Kindle wherever I go. So if you see me looking down, I may not be on social media, I may be reading. And I just find that if I do that, it definitely helps balance me. It's one of the things that helps me relax if I don't read. And I'm talking a storybook. I do read a lot of other things at other times, but that's not necessarily as relaxing. And I also randomly, I don't know if there's many places over in America that do this. I started going into flotation tanks. And so in Oxford and in London, they have these places which have they're like self-deprivation tanks. And so you're floating on this really salty water. It's like nice and warm. It's like having a warm hug. And so every so often I would go off and have a float and it would just really relax me. I never come out of these things stressed. I always feel like I've had a really good sleep. You don't sleep. You kind of float around for an hour, but it's a really enjoyable thing for me to help relax. And so the fact that I was taking time away from the lab to do all of these sports with a variety of friends, I, did lots of reading and then floating. It definitely helped keep me sane.
Oh, I love that. And I have not actually done like the sensory deprivation tanks, but I've heard great things about them. So I might need to go try it out. But I do think too, like, when I was in grad school, I really wanted to try to create just a balance between the things that I'm doing in the lab versus the things that I'm doing outside of the lab, and making sure that things outside of the lab are really fueling me to actually continue to do a lot of the work that I'm doing in the lab. And so, like, I also did a lot of sports. Actually, a lot of the grad students, we got together and we did intramural sports together. So we like formed a basketball team and like a floor hockey team. And I think that there's a lot of value too in just like taking breaks. Like whenever I would go on just like a mini vacation or just like do something that was not focused on work, I would come back and have so much more energy for the things that I was doing. And I think that sometimes we think of those as hindrances to our progress when we're in grad school. But I think a lot of the time when we actually practice good self care, we take breaks when we need them, when we actually maybe take an actual vacation, we come back way more recharged and way more focused to actually get more work done. So I think I love that. I love that tip. I think one thing for me was just the kind of along the same lines, but just kind of having a sense of clear boundaries, and also making sure that I'm communicating those as early as possible so that people are not confused about my intentions or the things that I'm planning to do. I think that included just having some level of clear boundaries when it came to like how much time I'm spending in the lab. Sometimes it's hard. I did experiments that had to come in on the weekends. There was just no other way to do that experiment, or it's going to take longer than maybe is ideal. I'm going to have to stay later than I wanted to this day. But I tend to also try to balance that with if I'm going to have to stay late on Tuesday, if I'm able to leave early on Wednesday, I'll do that. And just making sure it was clear, like what the boundaries of my work hours are, what the boundaries of like the expectations in terms of like how much am I going to be around, what am I going to be doing in the lab versus outside of the lab, were clearer. I didn't do that, just to be clear. I I created some level of boundaries closer to the end, but I think it actually made it sometimes trickier because I'd already had this level of coming in when people asked, not being, very firm on any boundaries I created. So if my PI was like, "Hey, I need you to do this thing, drop whatever you're doing, just like get it done," I would. And then that kind of sometimes becomes like the standard that people hold you to when you've done it before. So I think especially if you're able to like take a second and be like, where do I want my lines to be? I think people actually respect those better, especially if that's who you've been the whole time and the boundaries that you've had from the beginning.
Yeah, boundaries definitely, excuse me, boundaries definitely help. And I was the weirdo who went horse riding in the middle of the day. And everyone would see me driving off in my, in my jodhpurs and other things. They'd be like, where is she going? And then I'd come back an hour later and they're like, what did you just do? I went horse riding. Like the lesson I had is this is the time it is. I've figured out my experiments so I can have this time. And I did that in a postdoc as well. I came in late on one particular morning because I went horse riding in that morning. And it's really good to set those boundaries. And it's also really good to maintain your friendships, not just within your program, but outside of your program. So you can actually talk to them. A lot of people, especially if they're in a different graduate school, they know what you're going through, but they don't necessarily know the people. So you can kind of vent and be like, oh, this person's just doing this or whatever it is. And they know what you're going through. But it's also really important to keep contact with people who aren't in graduate school because they will keep you sane and they will keep your feet on the ground. You know, it's really easy. You're in academia, you are in the top echelon of smart people. And so the people who aren't going through that don't care. So they will make sure that you are just Jenny from the block and you making sure that you stay who you are. And that's really important to stay kind of grounded and not think that you are the bee's knees.
And I think that also is just like you said, too, just remembering that there's a world outside of academia. I think when you have all of your friendships within academia and you're there all the time, like you kind of forget what other people, like your other friends, are going through and what life looks like for them. And sometimes I think that's also just like a really great way to be like, wait a second, maybe this is not the most normal scenario. Maybe this is not actually like the healthiest for certain things that are going on in my life. So I think that that's really great advice. And this is one thing too that maybe connects a little, but I would also say too, like take advantage of mental health treatment that exists on your campus, in particular things like therapy. I think that's like another great place where you can vent. People maybe don't have as many associations with like they don't know your PI or they don't know the people in your lab or they don't know your other friends. And it gives you an opportunity to talk about some of the things that you're struggling with or that you're having challenges with. And then you're able to really get that out and maybe get advice too that's useful. But I think that also there's so many mental health resources that tend to exist on a lot of these institutions' campuses, that most of the time grad students especially, but a lot of people have access to. So definitely look into those as well.
Yeah. And for me, I needed to learn when I did things best. So there are certain times of the day where I am going to be more efficient when it comes to writing and reading. And if I kind of force myself to do it at inopportune times, it can kind of rebound and I won't enjoy it. I won't be as effective. And frankly, the work might not be as good as it could be. So you definitely don't want me reading immediately after lunch because I might be falling asleep. You want me up and about doing something. But writing, I am much better at later on in the afternoon and evening. And it also helped, and this is going to sound really weird, but I only wrote my dissertation listening to 2 different soundtracks. And I love lots of different music, but for whatever reason, and you can tell how old I am when I say this, Outkast had just released Hey Ya when I was writing up. So that album, I listened to that. And then I also listened to the Ultimate Collection of like Stevie Wonder. So if I was having a kind of joyful, bouncy day, I listened to Stevie Wonder. And if I needed to kind of get a kick up the bum, I would listen to Outkast. So you could tell how the day was going depended on what I was listening to. But none of the other music that I listened to, and obviously I went home and listened to other music, but when I was writing, it was only those 4 different CDs. It was a CD. It wasn't even it wasn't even an MP3 player or something. That's how old I am. But learning those definitely helped me because then when I was doing it, I was efficient and it was easier to do. So learning when is best for you to do certain tasks will definitely help you and it will make sure that you actually enjoy those rather than kind of slogging through.
Yeah, and I love that advice. And I think what's really unique in some ways about academia is that you get the power a lot of the time to kind of structure your day in a way that works really well for you. And so actually that like as a kind of similar story, when I was writing up one of my papers, kind of finishing up my PhD, I would actually get to lab at like an insane early time, 6:30 a.m. It was crazy. It was very crazy. But I worked so well. I would spend about 2 hours writing in the morning. I would listen. Actually, my music of choice when I was writing was this guy. His name's Josh Vietti, but it's like all instrumental, but it's like really kind of like upbeat. And so it was like, yeah, it kind of got me a little jazzed. But I would write at 6:30 in the morning, and then by the time people started showing up to lab, I was ready to chat and greet people and take a break from my writing. And it ended up being like the most productive I ever was the few months that I was showing up crazy early to lab to get some writing done. So I think that's super great advice. And I think too that, it speaks a lot to just how great in some ways that the academic environment can be because I got to do that. Whereas, in some other jobs, there's more of the traditional structure or schedules or places you need to be at specific times. And I think there's a lot of flexibility in academia. That's really great for being productive. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it though, kind of for this topic of talking a bit about boundaries and self-care and some of the things we wish we knew before starting our PhD. So like we mentioned, this is kind of a series. And so there's some other videos. So be sure to check out Kate's channel, as well as other videos on my channel where we'll talk more about some different topics. So that's it for this video where Dr. Kate Sleeth and I shared a little about some of the things that we wish we knew before starting grad school. If you like this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more videos like it, feel free to subscribe not only to the Revolting Science Resources YouTube channel, but also the Educated STEM YouTube channel. Again, the link to the Educated STEM YouTube channel will be in the description box below. And that's also where you can go to check out some of the other videos that are part of this series. But that's it for now, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.